Hello, everybody. My name is Adam, and I'm attempting to be the world's most prolific reviewer of movies, television, podcasts, whatever. And today, I'm going to review F1, the movie. I had a lot of time. I have a lot of time because I will be about 6 weeks out of commission with a broken elbow, which is crazy. Like, I can't imagine being a professional athlete and having all of the pressure to go back to work. I mean, there's also pressure to go back to work, but I'm really glad that I live in a country where my health takes the priority because obviously, if I break myself, I can't work, and that would be a problem not only for me but the people that I would ask for support. All right. F1 the movie. It stars, who does it star? Brad Pitt, Damson Idris, and Carrie Comden and Javier Bardem. And I like the movie, but I'm gonna say a lot of critical things about it. So if you have a different opinion about the movie, please stay until the end of this review and then leave your comments at the end once you've listened to my comments. So, F1 was kind of like a movie that nobody really asked for, but F1, the brand and the company, provided us with this movie. And it comes probably on the back rather, of Drive to Survive. And it's interesting because I think like F1 drivers have, and if you don't know, Drive to Survive is this reality sports entertainment show that Netflix produced. And it's supposed to be a documentary about the F1 seasons. And it's released before each F1 season to give people kind of like a taste of the storylines that they may have missed in the last season. And I think like F1 drivers have mixed feelings about this because, on the one hand, this and Drive to Survive debuted in the pandemic, so a lot of people were stuck at home, and it really made F1 much more popular in North America. So a lot of F1 drivers have mixed feelings about this because, on the one hand, it did increase the popularity of the sport, which is good for their wallets. But on the other hand, it um, it kind of make reality TV is never quite accurate. And if you're trying to be a professional athlete, and it's a weird type of athleticism, but they are professional athletes. Um, you don't really need the distraction. So they decided that they would release this movie, and kind of it's so connected to F1. Like, the title is F1, and you can see that there's a lot of F1 money behind the production of it. And it's basically like a 2.5 hour long advertisement for F1. And I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. And this is one of those movies where if you didn't go to the cinema to watch it, you really missed out on it. And I watched it at home because, I'm reviewing it like 6 months after it debuted, and also I broke my elbow, so I can't go anywhere, pretty much. So, yeah, but I can imagine when you're watching the scenes of the racing in a cinema, like your seats would be shaking, and it would be much more immersive experience, which is really really great. And I think like when I was watching this is going to be a strange comparison, strange and not strange at the same time. This really reminded me of Days of Thunder. If you don't remember Days of Thunder, it was another racing movie starring Tom Cruise. And the plot is very, very similar, although Tom Cruise was a much younger man when he played the role that Brad Pitt is playing. But basically, it's these two drivers who want to succeed, but because of health problems, they're like pushing themselves through. So that's one reason it's very similar. Of course, they're both about racing, although one is about stock car racing and the other is about F1 racing. Um, but the hype around the movie also was about the same because I think Days of Thunder came out when I was kind of like maybe mid to late teenagers when I was more conscious of movie marketing. And you saw it everywhere, McDonald's, all of this stuff. They really thought that Drive uh, Days of Thunder was going to be like the summer hit, and I don't think that it turned out to be. Um, but F1 had the same kind of marketing. You saw it everywhere. Drivers were giving interviews about it. It was on TikTok feeds, YouTube feeds, probably McDonald's promotion tie-ins, of course, as well. So it's not like I think that we don't have movie events like that so much anymore, especially movie events that are not tied to any particular franchise. So it's really hard to get people excited about a movie that's not connected to some kind of storytelling journey that they've been on. But Top Gun Maverick was also a little bit about this, but it still had like a franchise behind it. But F1 didn't really have a franchise. It had the, you know, the corporate F1 brand behind it. So, as I said, I did like the movie, but I think that there are a few misses in the movie. And I think the first one, because which is going to be weird because I think he does a really good job, is Brad Pitt. And I understand why they chose Brad Pitt. They chose Brad Pitt because we don't have movie stars, like movie stars, um, in the same way as Brad Pitt. Like I can think of Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio, and maybe Johnny Depp. But Johnny Depp wouldn't work in this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio also kind of wouldn't work because even though Leonardo DiCaprio is a middle-aged man now, he has this sort of like, it's a weird thing to say, but he has this boy energy, if you know what I mean. Like maybe it's just because we watched him grow up in cinema, but Brad Pitt, he was always maybe not middle-aged man, but he started at like 29. Like maybe not literally, but you felt like he was 29, even though he was playing like much younger characters. So Brad Pitt is a good choice in terms of what he looks like, his presence as a movie star. It gets people in the seats, but in the movie, Brad Pitt plays a guy who is about Brad Pitt's age. So for the sport of F1, that doesn't make any sense because so I am 48 years old. Brad Pitt is about 10 years older than I am, and he began his, ascent to movie star heights in the 90s when I was in high school, right? So in the movie, his career also started in the 90s. So that, and so they say that, he hasn't driven an F1 in 30 years. Is so completely ridiculous to choose that character. Like, I could understand the story arc of choosing a person who's been out of F1 for a while as sort of a Hail Mary, as they say in the movie, but 30 years? And in the movie, they say, okay, we tried 9 guys before you, but there are 20 seats in F1, and the character Brad Pitt is playing, he points this out, like, didn't you try F2? Didn't you try F3? Because there's 20 seats in F1, right? And then maybe there's 40 seats in F2, and then 80 seats in F3, and then other, like, people who've been out of F1 because they lost their seat recently. So I think that it is ridiculous to pick somebody who has been out of F1 racing for 30 years. And then he comes in and he's like this breath of fresh air, and he's trying all of these tactics, and he knows exactly how the car works. Now, the movie does a good job of showing that he's doing his research, he's doing his homework, he's really well prepared, but like he is still almost 60 years old at this point. His reaction times are not going to be as great as the other drivers on the field, right? And on the grid. And I think it's just a big stretch of the imagination. And so, while I was kind of mentally preparing myself to record this review, I was thinking that a better two actors come to mind who would have been better for this role: Tom Holland and Timothy Chalamet. And they're not as big movie stars as Brad Pitt is, and that's why he was chosen, but Brad Pitt's casting doesn't make any sense. So Timothy Chalamet has sort of like the body type of an F1 driver, and I think Tom Holland is older than Chalamet, but he looks younger, so it's kind of like a Michael J. Fox situation, and he also has the body of an F1 driver because F1 drivers are either like really short or skinny, like not too tall, because you have to fit in the car, right? And I think that Brad Pitt is too tall. He's too, he's like, his body is built for a different kind of sport. I don't know which one, but you know, like you have body types which are good for a specific kind of sports, and Brad Pitt doesn't really track. So that's my big problem with the plot of the movie. And the other problem that I would have is um, and it's weird because F1, this is basically a promo for F1. It's to sell F1 tickets, F1 merchandise, subscriptions to their streaming service, whatever. This is a promo. But they don't actually describe the sport very well, you know, because they're in this team, right? They're this new team and they're not very successful, and they bring Brad Pitt's character in to sort of be a mentor to this like young rookie, and in the hopes that they can win at least one race. So it's clear from that team's perspective why they need to win one race, because the principal of the team will be fired if they don't win one race this season. That was the expectation. So that makes sense. But the whole background of what's happening in the the F1 season, like I can understand why they didn't talk about it, but like if somebody brings you to the movie theater to watch this, and like my daughter, she told me like randomly the other day, like, oh, I like F1. I'm like, what? Because she also saw this movie, right? So anyway, she, he, they, the movie, they didn't do a, like, so what I'm trying to desperately get out of my mouth is the fact that in F1 there are two championships, right? There's the Constructor Championship, and that goes to the team with whose cars have the most points, you know, because basically F1 is a sport where teams build their cars every year and they race the cars, and that's part of the competition to see which team can be the best constructor. So that's one part. And then you have the Drivers' Championship. And that's what the drivers care about, of course. And, there are points, and you can win the Drivers' Championship if you don't win the most races, like happened with Lando Norris just recently. And you can win it if you win all of the races. So, for example, during the filming of this movie in 2024, I believe Max Verstappen won all of the races. So there wasn't much drama behind him. And this season, there was much more drama. So basically, the movie doesn't talk about any of that, right? So it'd be interesting to talk about like the World Drivers' Championship and the Constructors' Championship, because this team doesn't have a chance of winning either. But like there is competition for, like, if you get, so the reason why this is important is if you get fourth or fifth in one of these championships, especially the Constructors' Championship, you get money, right? Ferrari gets the most money because they're Ferrari, and that's the deal that they struck. But like, if you get third in the constructors' uh, challenge, championship, you get a percentage of the revenue or whatever, but you get a percentage of it. So that's kind of like a motivation for the team that's not there, right? And you have pride and all of that stuff. And it's weird because he says, my strap is cutting into my neck. It's doing it again. Ugh. So Brad Pitt, so basically, the rookie character played by Idris, not Idris. Never mind. I think his last name is Damien Idris. So anyway, the rookie character, they get ninth place, so that means they finished in the points, and he is really happy. And Brad Pitt's character is like, "What are you being happy about? You didn't win anything." And it's like, wait a minute, guy. This sport is so very competitive that you do not have the car to win, right? You don't have the car to win right now. So, and this is the first point that this team has scored in its existence. You can be happy about that, right? Yeah. So that's one thing. And the other thing is about like the character of that Brad Pitt is playing, Sonny. So he's doing all of these like unorthodox tactics and stuff, and people are completely surprised by what's going on. And I wonder, my thought is, like, so F1 is a business. It's worth billions of dollars. These companies spend I don't know how much, but probably a lot of money per team per year to compete. And you don't think that they haven't thought of these tactics before? You know? It's just so weird. And he's like, "Yes, I need to fight in the dirty wind." And it's like, yes, nobody has ever thought about that in the 30 years since you've been in F1, Sonny. And it's not the character's fault, it's the writing's fault, you know. And I think I'm convincing myself that it's not actually a good movie. I mean, I enjoyed the movie because, there's cars going around and it's, vroom, vroom, vroom. It's good. The vroom, vroom, vroom is good. But, like, if you get past the vroom, 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 uh, not so great. And I think, like, people also had a criticism that there is a female technical manager and Brad Pitt's character has a little bit of an affair with her. And I don't know. I think that's just it. It's kind of irrelevant for me because people working together would do that, you know. And I don't know what the gender ratio is in F1, but it's probably like 99% men. And if the 1% chooses to date a guy like Brad Pitt, would you be surprised? Like, I don't know. Not surprised by that. Yeah. So vroom 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 good, plot bad. But the rest of the movie, I don't know. It's an enjoyable movie. I don't know. It probably won't go into the cinema again, but if you have a chance ever to see it in the cinema, I would take it because vroom vroom good, plot bad, enjoyable. But all right, what did you think about the movie? Did you like it, dislike it? Let me know in the comment section because that's where comments belong. And if you like my reviewing style, please like and subscribe on YouTube. My new goal is to have 200 subscribers by the end of January. And yeah, if you're listening on Spotify, please follow. Thank you. Bye bye.